Turning to a very important story that you need to see. Colorado police under fire for taking a woman and 4 clearly unarmed children, the youngest just 6 years old, and holding them in custody, often at gunpoint, forcing them to lie cuffed face down, as you see here on the ground, scared and humiliated. This was in a salon parking lot for upwards of 2 hours.
There's kids. There's kids. They had guns on kids.
That is hard to watch, even for a few seconds. Imagine living through it. That went on, as I mentioned, for upwards of 2 hours. This is America. This happens all the time. Most of the time, I'll be honest with you, it's not even on the national news. Now, tonight, what's new is the woman you saw there, her name is Brittany Gilliam, is now suing Aurora, Colorado. She alleges in court that entire spectacle was an invalid and illegal arrest. She alleges the police were breaking the law. She also notes in her new suit that it hurt and traumatized those innocent children. You heard their cries. She says they now struggle with basic activities like eating and sleeping, and they are in therapy for this. The police department, to be clear, is not even claiming they had an accurate reason for the arrest and conduct you see there by the officers. Instead, they do apologize, and they say they incorrectly thought that that vehicle was stolen. It wasn't. An explanation that many law enforcement experts say does not even justify the force and guns drawn that you saw. Now, here's what else is new tonight. You may have heard that elections have consequences. So do social movements sometimes. The protests over the May killing of George Floyd led Colorado to reform police rules in June, passing a new law that bans some aggressive tactics and also a type of automatic legal immunity for officers, which means they can, when warranted, be held personally responsible in court. This is one of the first cases based on that new law. And while everyone's entitled to their day in court, this is the first time citizens in that state have actually been entitled to take on police officers directly and personally for their own day in court. It's very important, and we have some special guests on this story. We are joined now by the attorney for Miss Gilliam and her family. His name's David Lane. We're also joined by Mark Claxton, who's a retired NYPD detective, director of political affairs for the Black Law Enforcement Alliance. Good evening to both of you. David, it's hard. I just want to start with the human part. It's hard to even watch a little bit of that. You're representing someone who lived through it. Walk us through first the reality, and then we could talk about the law.
Well, Brittany was seriously traumatized because her 4 closest relatives were screaming for her to help, and she was completely helpless. She was trying to show the police her registration and her license plate number matched the registration. The police wouldn't look at a piece of paper to determine that this is not a stolen car. These kids had been for weeks and months seeing on the news every night white police officers killing African Americans for no reason whatsoever. And these little kids get pulled out of a car at gunpoint. And how any cop believes there is any justification for pointing a gun at a 6-year-old child, it's beyond me. But these kids this is a life-changing event for these kids. And we are now taking this civil rights statute that the Colorado legislature passed in July. I'm only
organizing it to say, I want to get to that because I mentioned it.
Sure.
But it's very important, just in my role moderating, to make sure we're clear on what happened. So thank you for what the family's going through. Before we turn to the law, Mark, what we saw on tape there, what the available evidence shows, is this proper policing?
Not at all. and it's hard to reject the claim that the occupants of the car were traumatized and victimized. But, you know, early on, even the police attempted to make the stop appear ordinary. I remember hearing their spokespersons indicate that they're trained to conduct the full-on felony stop for all suspected stolen vehicles. It's absolute nonsense. The reality is, all too often with Black people, it's important to put that in, the police confuse reasonable force options with a mandate to use force. You know, built into policing is a wide range of discretion. And if you doubt that, look at the extraordinary restraint that was shown by the police officers at the Capitol on the 6th. If ever it was reasonable to use an escalated amount of force, that was it. But with all the video that you've seen thus far, even police officers being actively assaulted or retreating, they didn't even unholster their weapons. So as far as a police perspective, this stop was absolutely, totally avoidable and unnecessary and obviously traumatizing. Traumatizing, just as you indicated, Ari, just to watch it and the vulnerability of these young ladies, especially on the heels of what occurred with that very police department with Elijah McClain.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.